It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? You do, we do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center Studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast celebrating the holidays. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton in studio in San Diego, along with my co-host John Riley, normally broadcast from left field. We're in our new studio. We're still under construction. We hope you had a great Christmas. We hope you'll stay with us for the next hour or so as we go towards the great sports weekend, as we go towards the playoff games, as we go towards the new year 2025. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations in San Diego and the new one in Orange County and Dana Point. You got projects for 2025. They've got ideas. They've got the materials you need. Where we do business, DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley, happy holidays. We've got a lot to talk about, and the new year is just upon us.
I know you flew in here. You're going to fly out of here. It's crazy time during the holidays. We've got a lot on the table to talk about.
And we promise you, we will get the studio built, and we will get the studio right when we get to the new year.
We're getting close.
2025. Just a couple of business notes. When we are done with this podcast, we're going to open up the opportunity for you to join us. It's called Fans Forum. John, for everybody who's joining us on the podcast, how does it work?
Yeah, how it works is if you got a question or comment in the world of sports for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, just type in your comment or question in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved.
If you like sports, please check my website. I write on it every day of the week, including the holidays. There's the address up top, leehacksawhamilton.com. There's an orange box on the homepage. Fill out that information. You get on our mailing list for all the special things that we have to offer. Also, want you to share, tell everybody we do Mondays and Thursdays on our podcast, and subscribe. You subscribe on the YouTube channel, you'll get the alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, and we do that quite a bit. John, we've got a ton of topics on the table, kind of a tight window today. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, let's start with the Aztecs and the Bruins. There's some great college basketball over the weekend.
Let's talk holiday basketball. San Diego State was ranked 20th in the country. They're now 30th in the country. They gave one away. They gave a Christmas gift to Utah State. It was vintage Aztec basketball for the first half of their game on Saturday. The second half looked like a team from outer space. You couldn't identify with who they were and how they played. Utah State comes from 18 back to win at San Diego State on a three-point shot with 7 seconds to go. But they really did the damage throughout the entire second half. And the statistics were amazing, John. The Aztecs held the Aggies to 18 points in 18 minutes in the first half. Utah State did not look like an 11-1 basketball team. In the second half, Utah State went zone. San Diego State went 0 for 11 from the three-point arc. Shot 25% from the floor in the second half. That didn't look like vintage Aztec basketball. I guess a learning curve of a game for a fairly new, fairly young Aztec team. Is it the end of the world? No. Last I checked, it only counts as one loss to Utah State, but they were up by 18, and this does not happen to a Brian Dutcher team. What complicates the loss, John, is now they got to go play at Boise, and they got to go play at New Mexico, and those won't be easy tilts. I mean, I hate to pull this number out of the sky, but they could be 0-3 by a week from now because of those 2 tough road games. So you watched it. You saw it. Great first half. Vintage Aztec at home first half. And that looked like something from outer space, a foreign team in the second half of the game.
It was unbelievable. And, you know, the Aztecs have historically always had a problem with the zone defense. And I know this is a matchup zone. I don't really understand the intricacies of how it differs from a regular zone, but it was clear it wasn't working. The Aztecs were hitting threes in the first half, like lights out. And then the second half, I think they were 0 for. But, you know, Utah State has a lot of good guys. That Falslev kid is pretty good.
They got 2 good guards and a guy that was hitting threes all day long. Tough loss for San Diego State. But now they got to go on the road and go into Boise, go into Albuquerque. That's going to be hard.
Hey, what was your take on that Miles Bird charge?
I thought it was a charge. It was not a block. But on the very next trip down the floor, there should have been a foul on San Diego State that the officials didn't call. I didn't think the officials had a real consistent good game, but they were botching them on both sides. But yeah, Miles Bird got a bad deal on that call, but then San Diego State escaped on the next trip down the floor because they should have had a foul there that was never, ever called. Let's talk about the other story, UCLA. Nobody in the country is talking about the Bruins. Hell, nobody's going to see the Bruins at Pauley Pavilion. 11-2 on the season. They punch Gonzaga in the mouth. Tell you, I give a lot of credit to Mark Few. The Zags play anybody, anywhere, anytime. They may play collectively, John, the toughest schedule in the country. But the Bruins hit them with three-point shots. The Bruins hit them with vintage Mick Cronin defense. And UCLA is 11-2 on the season. And Gonzaga just continues to play every tough guy there is on the schedule. March Madness is going to be fun to look at some of these basketball teams because we got an Aztecs, we got UCLA. I mean, those are March Madness teams. And by the way, the other guy on the hill over there by the ocean, UCSD, if they win the Big West, think about this. We could have two San Diego college teams in March Madness in what many people view it as not a basketball city. It's become a basketball city.
Yeah, I saw like a March Madness, bracketologist say that UCSD might be a 13 seed playing Gonzaga, a 4 in the first round. And I'm just loving it as an alumni of UCSD. But yeah, UCLA, it's weird. Like some years they're really good, and then other years they're not so good. Sometimes there's some chaos, but boy, they did look sharp against Gonzaga.
And they're 11-2, and they play a national schedule. And nobody's talking about UCLA right now, and nobody's going to Pauley Pavilion to see their games. So that's college basketball right out of the gate. Fans Forum chat box is open. If you're an Aztec fan, feel free to jump on board. You want to talk college hoops, feel free. We're not done with basketball. Next topic on the table.
Yeah, the NBA. And there's been a lot of chirping and ratings issues. I mean, you want to go to the big board here, Lee?
Yeah, boy, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of problems in the NBA. I mean, they got problems with TV ratings are down like 19%. We got real issues with tantrums and players on the floor. And now what I have seen in the last 3 weeks, the disrespect of player to player, player to referee, player to fans is through the roof. Look at the discipline that has been handed down to NBA players since early November. Joel Embiid, 76ers star, just got hit with another $75,000 fine. He's had multiple fines and the 3-game suspension for the really ugly incident with a Philadelphia columnist. There was an incident last week with a female referee in which there was body contact and he tried to bully and intimidate a female referee. He's not been fined for that incident yet. I think Embiid, he's got anger management, mental health issues.
Oh, yeah.
I think Philadelphia needs to do an intervention, or the league needs to do an intervention, because these explosions are occurring all the time. Second name, this guy is disrespectful towards everybody. And I think we all appreciate how really good Anthony Edwards is in the Minnesota Timberwolves. He just got hit with another $100,000 fine. He's been fined $235,000 for 4 incidents since Thanksgiving in the last calendar month. And he is mouthy. When you were bad, when I was bad, my mother used to wash my mouth out with Ivory soap if I said something wrong. That guy needs a heavy dose of Ivory soap in his mouth. The junk that's coming out of his mouth towards other players, towards referees, and towards the fans is awful. Trae Young hit with $100,000 in fines for abuse of fans. Fred VanVleet of Houston hit with a $100K penalty for abuse and F-bombs into the face of officials. LaMelo Ball, same situation with obscene gestures. Hell, it's even happened to coaches. UDOKA, who I think has done a really great job with the Houston Rockets as their first-year head coach, he got whacked for $50,000 for his condemnation of the officials. And Mike Brown, who just got fired in Sacramento, which has shocked everybody, he got hit for $35,000 for berating officials on the floor, getting ejected, and then going back for second helpings in the post-game press conference. The disrespect in the league, I think, is at an all-time high. Player to player, player to ref, player to fans. And John Riley says,
you're right. It is. I mean, these guys are professionals. I mean, and they're just blowing their own money. I mean, what's the deal? I mean, Embiid, I think he's a smart guy, but you say anger management. I remember one of these kids told me one time, AMPM, it's anger management issues, man. So or anger management problems, man. So Embiid has the intelligence to do the right thing, but for some reason, he just kind of goes off the edge, goes off the rails.
And I think the other thing that's just ghastly, go back to that chart. These guys are making so much money, 40 to 50 million a year for the stars. They don't care. They don't care.
Change.
Yeah, 2.3 million Embiid has lost in the first 2 months of the season. No big thing. He's got so much money coming in, which then I guess takes it to that disrespectful level. So I'm just absolutely stunned at how bad the optics are looking at NBA players and their treatment of other people. We got that. Got one other basketball note.
One other basketball. I'll talk about the Sacramento Kings. They made a switch at coach.
Yeah, this is shocking because he had rebuilt Sacramento, which has had no success in a long period of time. It's like a foreign legion outpost, bad franchise. Mike Brown just gets fired. Now they're 13-18. They've had a real substandard season despite the greatness of De'Aaron Fox. Brown gets bounced. Players barked publicly that he was becoming so abusive in practices and in post-game press conferences, he lost the locker room. And ownership got tired of his antics. But the guy's a good coach, but he got bounced. The outcry from coaches around the league has really been hostile. Mike Malone, head coach Denver Nuggets, was the first one that popped off and said, oh, it's real easy for owners to fire a coach rather than blame the players who deserve to be blamed. Mike is talking about the Sacramento Kings players whom he think quit on Mike Brown. And he turns around, Mike Malone says, I know those people. I know that general manager. I know that owner. I know how, quote, incompetent they are because they did the same thing to me when Mike Malone got fired in Sacramento. So Mike Brown's got backers, but Mike Brown is out of a job. They owe him, get this, they just signed him an extension this summer because he's done such a good job. They owe him $25 million.
Oh, wow.
Out the door.
Nice to have a guaranteed deal.
Can I have one of those?
Yeah.
So just real bad. By the way, sidebar story just broke overnight. Lakers made a trade. Lakers went and got a tough guy guard. They get Dorian Finney-Smith, 6'7" wingman, stick your nose in at defense, shoots 43% from the arc. So he kind of fits what J.J. Redick wants. By the way, played with Redick when he was a rookie. He's 32 years of age, comes from the Brooklyn Nets. They gave up D'Angelo Russell, a young backup player, and they gave up 3 second-round picks. Most people around the league of the opinion, Dorian Finney-Smith, good fit for the Lakers in the final year of his contract, and the Lakers got rid of DAR. They were tired of the act. D'Angelo Russell was so inconsistent. So that's a positive upgrade because dude does play tough, hard-nosed defense. It doesn't solve the problem in the paint because they've been talking about trying to make a trade to get a defensive center rim protector, but getting this guy helps them out on the edge, and this guy can hit threes. Like the trade?
Yeah, it sounds interesting. It sounds good on paper. But I want to go back to Mike Brown because that guy has had a lot of respect in the league, from players and media and other coaches. How did he turn into like this, guy with a lot of bad energy in the clubhouse?
Ogre. Yeah, it's really hard to believe. I mean, because he was liked in LA, but they got rid of him. Of course, they've made a lot of mistakes in decisions with the Lakers, but he was in Cleveland, did a good job. And he just keeps losing these jobs. I don't know if he'll have another head coaching job anywhere in the NBA, but I think he's got a good track record. I think he's highly regarded. Maybe he came from Golden State. After getting bounced out of head jobs, he wound up working for Steve Kerr, did a really good job with the Warriors. And then he gets the opportunity in Sac City, and Sacramento just sacked Mike Brown. So that's all things basketball. Feel free to jump on board. Are you seeing the same NBA game that we're seeing? Are there a lot of bad citizens who might be good players, bad citizens in the NBA? Fans forum chat box is open. Your response to all the fines these players are having to pay, or doesn't it matter because they're just making so much bleeping money they don't care? So we go from all things hoops to what happened this weekend in the National Football League.
The National Football League, some of our SoCal teams clinch playoff berths.
Yeah, let's do just a quick walk through here. Hot storylines. The Chargers batter the Patriots. The Bolts, it was like the varsity playing the freshmen in football. I've never seen an NFL team be so incompetent as New England was. Justin Herbert threw the ball all over the place. Drake May got pummeled, the rookie quarterback of the Patriots. Chargers just walked all over them on a 40-7 victory. Total offense, the Bolts had 428 yards. New England had 181 yards in total offense. Chargers had a 40-minute to 20-minute time of possession edge. Chargers ran 70 plays. Patriots had only 43 snaps during the course of the game. I sat there and said, okay, this is good. Bolts get a win. Justin Herbert does not get touched. J.K. Dobbins came back, found his rhythm, coming off injured reserve. So these guys are getting primed for whatever postseason play is going to look like as a wild card playoff team. But then I thought, on the other hand, and I wrote a column about it today, my one man's opinion column on my website. If you're a football fan, you got to go check it out. But I also wrote a column today of the opinion, Robert Kraft, look at what you have allowed to happen to your franchise.
Right.
That's Robert Kraft. They had a TV network shot of him in the press box in the third quarter when it was horrible. He looked like an old man. He looked like next to death. And this is a man who won 6 Super Bowl rings. And this is a man that gave Bill Belichick authoritarian power. And this is a man who's now seen his franchise fail. He's got the quarterback. There's no doubt that Drake May is going to be a player. He's got no players around Drake May. Going to get a high draft pick. May have made a terrible mistake on the decision to hand the head coaching job to Jared Mayo, who was a fine NFL linebacker under Belichick when Belichick was pushed out the door. But their record, John, their record is just godly. It's 31-53 post Tom Brady. And New England dynasty has now become very depressing to watch. I mean, that was despicable football for an NFL franchise that used to be known for Super Bowl wins and greatness. So, Chargers beat the New England Patriots. The Rams are in the playoffs. The Rams have now won the NFC West. The Rams and Sean McVay hung on in a gritty, ugly game to beat Arizona. And what a performance by the Rams defense, the Rams mentality. Matthew Stafford, all those kids. What a job by Sean McVay. The Rams have won 9 of their last 11. The first week of October, we thought the season might be over because they were 1-4. Now they've gone 9-2 since that point in time. And Arizona just keeps turning the football over. Kyler Murray has reverted back to a turnover machine. Cardinals at one point were thought were red hot at midseason. They've lost 5 of their last 6. The Rams win the division. They're trying really hard to make me a Rams fan, make San Diego a Rams community. Feel free to jump on board. We'll talk about that. Minnesota Green Bay, really interesting game. Sam Darnold, comeback player of the year. Sam Darnold playing for his next contract in Minnesota, probably. I was told, he's making $10 million on a 1-year prove yourself deal. And you look at the kind of season that Sam Darnold has had, throws for 337 and 3 more touchdowns, 441 yards in offense for the Vikings last night. And Minnesota is sitting there at 13-2. Now the price tag, I hear he's going to go from $10 million. He wants $35 million next year on his next contract on maybe a 3 or 4 year deal. He's been mystical. Jordan Love kind of got overwhelmed with everything in Green Bay. I think that's a one-off. He's still done very well. I think Green Bay is going to have to be reckoned with when we get to postseason play. A couple of other teams. Cincinnati. The Bengals are 8-8. They were miserable for the first half of the season because they had no defense. They're still miserable on defense. What Joe Burrow has done is amazing. Joe Burrow throws for 413, 3 more touchdowns, even though he got sacked 7 times this weekend. The Bengals, if they beat Pittsburgh in the final game of the season, they're going to be in the playoffs. And speaking of comeback guys, how about Baker Mayfield? Just absolutely amazing. 359 through the air and 5 touchdown passes. Baker Mayfield's got 39 TDs this season.
Nice.
That's a guy the Rams didn't keep, a guy Cleveland gave up on. He goes to Tampa Bay, and he's become a cult hero. My God, they're going crazy on the Suncoast over Baker. I hate to be critical of the Raiders. They are playing hard for Antonio Pierce, but they've screwed this whole draft up. It looked like they were going to get either the first or second pick and a quarterback, and the Raiders go out and win back-to-back games. And they're sitting there now at 4-12 with 1 to play. And instead of drafting 1 or 2 and getting one of the top 2 quarterbacks, they're probably going to draft 10. By the way, they get the Chargers final game of the season. And speaking of good days versus bad days, well, the Bears are just pathetic. Caleb Williams took 7 more sacks this past weekend, yet he's throwing for big yardage. But the Bears' clock management's ratty. Their offensive line's terrible. The defense didn't play well. They're going to need somebody to come in to straighten that thing out. And that somebody, I think, is Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is going to apply for the Chicago Bears head coaching job he wants back in. So that's news and notes around the NFL. John, the floor is yours to talk Chargers, Rams, Sam Darnold, Joe Burrow, or anything else.
Well, let's talk about anything else. I'm surprised the Sunday night game wasn't on your list. Was it Falcons and who did the Falcons play last night? They played the Commanders. That was a hell of a game.
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. And this morning games on Sunday, I got the Philly-Dallas game, which was a blowout, and then I got the Bills and the Jets, which was a blowout. The morning games were terrible. So I don't know. I'm happy the Southern California teams have made the playoffs. That's good news. It's just amazing that the Rams have won the division after starting 1-4.
What we've seen, the Chargers have grown, and everybody's excited about Harbaugh and the culture. Rams have obviously had a phenomenal season led by Sean McVay picking up the flag when they were 1-4 and say, follow me, we're going to get this thing fixed, and they have. Now, I don't know how deep the Bolts are going to go in the postseason because I still think they got issues, and I don't know how far the Rams can go because Stafford can only will them so many victories, and I'll go back to pull this out of the sky, my Carolina Panther theory in postseason. You're not playing the Carolina Panthers or the Raiders or some of the bad teams. You're playing real people starting the second week of January. So we'll see how far the Chargers and those guys can go. Those are the storylines around the National Football League. We get to halftime. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. When we're done with this podcast, we should go to DIXIELINE. And we should ask them what color paint we should use when we renovate this new studio that we just built. You did a great job putting the green wire with the blue wire and the red wire and not blowing up the thing and starting a nuclear war. This guy thinks he's an engineer. So we got the studio to work. Now I got to make the studio look good. Maybe DIXIELINE's consultants can come in here and tell us what we should put on the walls and things like that. But that's what DIXIELINE's all about.
Yeah. For paint, they're great. You just roll in there. You got your samples. They'll help you out. They'll mix it. They'll customize it. And they'll even help you with like a bathroom remodel or kitchen remodel so you can integrate the paint color with the cabinets and the countertops and the faucetry and all that. So DIXIELINE, great partners.
These are the people. You got projects for 2025. These are the people we recommend you talk to about your projects. DIXIELINE Lumber. I just want you to look at the walls. This is the before. Maybe next time you see us, it'll be the after, because maybe DIXIELINE can help us because we sure don't know anything about painting walls. Some of us don't know anything about color schemes either. DIXIELINE Lumber can help you. Hey, just a couple of quick comments. If you like what we're doing, we invite you to share and subscribe. Want you to tell everybody what we do Mondays at 1 p.m., what we do Thursdays at 1 p.m. on our podcast on YouTube and all the other social media channels. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll get the alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, which is quite often a lot of different days of the week. You like sports, please check my website. I write on it every day of the week. If you like what we're doing on the podcast, I guarantee you'll be impressed with the volume of information we have on LeeHacksawHamilton.com. There's an orange box right on the homepage. You can register to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Hey, I know you're on social media. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on X. Just use my handle at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button because I put a lot of stuff up on Twitter X all the time too. And like we said, you like what we're doing here? Thanks very much for being part of our team on our weekly podcast. John, second half about to begin. Where are we going?
Where are we going? Okay, we just did the NFL weekend. Hey, the college football playoffs are going to be happening here.
Oh, you ready for New Year's Eve?
Yeah.
Yay. You ready for New Year's Day? Don't bother me on January 1st. This is going to be fun. Let's start with the games. College football playoffs. We move on to the second round. Rose Bowl, baby. You got Oregon. You got Ohio State. Only words I can use to describe, and I used these words when I was on KUSI because they do the Saturday morning sports package at 6:30 a.m. on Saturday. Only use words I can use to describe what Oregon, Ohio State, fight fire with fire. I think these two quarterbacks are going to come out, and I think they'll throw the football down the field. I think these offensive coordinators are going to come out and try to torch the defenses. And by the way, this game's not being played at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, where Oregon battered Ohio State early in the season. This sucker is on neutral ground. What a bowl game this is going to be. It's too bad it's got to be in the second round rather than the championship. That's a debate for another day. But there's no doubt Dillon Gabriel is spectacular. He's a systems quarterback who's thrown 29 touchdown passes. Dillon Gabriel is going to distribute that football. They run the football very well. They go spread formation. He makes a lot of things happen. I tell you, Ohio State was so spectacular in their last game, in the qualifying game. The burning question, where the hell was that Michigan week? But there's no doubt Chip Kelly's got this thing wired, and these guys are really rolling. And I think they're phenomenal. Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, Will Howard, the quarterback to Igbuka, the other wide receiver. They got two running backs. And nobody's talking about the Buckeye defense. And I'll tell you, Jack Sawyer and his friends, they're going to bring the heat against Dillon Gabriel. So I think Oregon, Ohio State is going to be a doozy. Peach Bowl, Texas, Arizona State. I think the wheels on Cinderella's carriage, which is located in Tempe, Arizona, are about to come off. Texas plays big boy defense. So the burning question, can Cam Scatabo, the 1,600-yard rusher for the Sun Devils, can he run the football against all things Texas has defensively up front? And Texas has obviously got Quinn Ewers, and they got two power running backs. That's a very good Steve Sarkisian-led team. I think Arizona State's going to have a real tough time against the Longhorns. Fiesta Bowl. This is the New Year's Eve game. Penn State, Boise. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty is a fabulous story. Coming from a military family, moved all over the globe, wasn't a high school football player per se because his family lived in Italy. Ashton Jeanty, Heisman Trophy finalist. He's going to break the all-time NCAA rushing record on Friday night, which will bust the Barry Sanders career record. It'll push him over 2,600 career yards. It's going to be an enormous challenge. But Penn State's great. Penn State's defense is phenomenal. Athletically, I think this made the best modern-day Penn State defense I've ever had. And their offense isn't all that bad. I think the big storyline in the Fiesta Bowl, Penn State's going to put a lot of people in the box, and they're going to try to slow down Jeanty. And they're going to try to make their quarterback at Boise State beat him through the air, which I think is going to be hard because the Lions secondary have a lot of good cover corners. Fiesta Bowl is going to be a good game, but I don't know that Boise State survives New Year's Eve. And then we get the Sugar Bowl. It's kind of like old-time football. I'll call it trench warfare. Sugar Bowl, Georgia, Notre Dame, line of scrimmage game. We'll see how Georgia plays without a star quarterback. Carson Beck, elbow surgery, gone. Actually, he's leaving school. He's going to the NFL. So they're going to play a backup quarterback. Connor Stockton has never started a game in college football. Now, he played well coming off the bench after Beck got hurt, but it's going to be a big challenge for Georgia. Irish got big-time defense. Georgia's got big-time defense. So I guess the burning question, can the Irish run the football at all against the Bulldogs defense? And then the bigger question, can the Bulldogs backup quarterback handle all things that have been thrown against them in the Sugar Bowl game by Notre Dame's rock-solid defense? I mean, there's a lot of great kids that play at that Catholic school, but on game day, they're kind of street fighters. They may have to go to confession after the game for all the stuff that happens. I think that's going to be a war zone. So those are the 4 playoff games. And I want to throw a salute out there. The guys that wear the red coats in San Diego, the guys that put together the Holiday Bowl, put together another fascinating game. You know, we have so much tradition in San Diego, the greatness of the Holiday Bowl. I mean, this goes all the way back to SMU, the Pony Express, Michigan, the great games with BYU and their assembly line of quarterbacks under Lavelle Edwards, Barry Sanders here, Blair Thomas, record-setting performance. We had so many great games. This one was almost equal to it. Kyle McLeod, Syracuse's quarterback, throws for 453 and 5 touchdowns. Orange went up and down the field. It was like a Syracuse home down. I don't think there's anybody left in the 315 area code to shovel snow last week. They were all here rooting Syracuse on. And I give a lot of credit to Washington State's kids. They lost their quarterback, Johnny Mantier, the week before the bowl game, decided to transfer to Oklahoma. The head coach quit, took the Wake Forest job. They lost their offensive coordinator, lost their quarterback coach, 25 kids in the portal. They stayed in that game against Syracuse, and they went to war. And they threw the football with a Division III quarterback who made his first start at the Pac-12 level. And he threw for 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. The 2 picks decided the game. Syracuse hung on and won. But I'll tell you what, Washington State's kids, thumbs up to them. You talk about damn adversity, an awful lot. And Syracuse is really good. But I salute the Holiday Bowl backers, the people that wear the red jackets at the stadium, who just do so well, putting on a great event in our community. I wish more people in our community would support the Holiday Bowl. They said they had 23,000. The turnstile count was a little bit under 19,000. I wish people go to those games to show the whole country this is a pretty good football city, but I don't know where the football fans in our town have gone because they don't support the Aztecs, and a little bit of erosion in the support of the Holiday Bowl. That being said, what a game for the Syracuse Orange, and what a stand-up thing to see what Washington State's kids outman did for 4 quarters against a really good Orange football team. So, John, you got college football. Here's the podium. There's your mic. Open it. Talk to me.
Well, first of all, isn't this great? I mean, all these are great playoff games.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a lot to enjoy here. And you can maybe criticize the 12-team format, but now that we're down to the final 8, the Elite 8, these are great matchups. And Oregon, Ohio State at the Rose Bowl, it's perfect. It's like the old Big Ten and the old Pac-12. So I like that. But I want to talk about Arizona State because we don't get a lot of conversation about them. Like you say, they're a bit of a Cinderella. You were the voice of the Sun Devils back in the 1980s.
We went to the Rose Bowl, beat Bo Schembechler and Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Never forgot that.
Yeah, so I'm just hoping you can maybe give the audience and myself some insight to what you think Arizona State fan is feeling right now. What's the history of Arizona State football? This could be a big opportunity for them.
Sun Devils were great in the old WAC, and the Sun Devils got to the Pac-10 at that point. Then it became the Pac-12, and they had some really good teams once they came off probation from the Frank Kush era. And that's when I got there, when Darryl Rogers was the coach, and then John Cooper became the coach. And he did very well. He went to a bunch of bowl games. We played here in the Holiday Bowl against Arkansas. We went 3 straight bowl games, capped off by the 1987 bowl game in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena against the team from up north Michigan, and they beat them. So it's been fun to see them come back. They had some dips. They had money problems. They had erosion because the Phoenix market changed. At one point, the Sun Devils were held in high esteem right next to the Phoenix Suns, and those were the only franchises there. And then obviously baseball came, the NFL came, it changed the whole marketplace. And when they weren't winning at Arizona State, there was erosion. Now they've come back. I mean, Sun Devils have just grabbed the town by the throat right now. And there's a lot of ASU fans. And they've done it. Transfer quarterback, North Carolina State. Transfer running back who came from 1AA Sacramento State. So this is a unique situation. Head coach is held in high regard. Ken Dillingham, he's a real smart X's and O's offensive guy. So it's kind of fun. I was with friends from Phoenix over the weekend, and it was really neat to hear them talk about this is just like it used to be, where they would draw 65. And back when I was there, we were drawing 72,000 every Saturday night because Sun Devil football was really important. Marketplace has changed, but they've gotten good. At least this year, they've gotten good. But they're running into a buzzsaw. This is going to be so hard this weekend.
Yeah, well, my heart is in it with the Sun Devils and Boise State, because I want to see the Ohio States get knocked off, those big boys that we're so tired of. I want some fresh blood.
So we got a lot. How about my statement on the Holiday Bowl? Did you like that game?
It was fun. I mean, there was a lot of scoring. And like you said, I didn't expect Washington State to amount to much. But, you're talking about the Red Jackets that help coordinate that. Isn't Bruce Binkowski one of the guys?
Well, Bruce Binkowski was here as executive director for a long time.
Yeah. And,
of course, he has retired. He's moved up to the Mountain States in the Big Sky Conference and is retired. But they've got great leadership, and they do so much from a charity standpoint within the community. I would just hope that football fans in San Diego and Southern California would embrace what these people do, because they put explosive games on, and they're the only game on TV. It's a Chamber of Commerce advertisement for City of San Diego. So I'd like to see them fill Snapdragon Stadium, because I thought Syracuse, Washington State, I thought it was going to be a wild game when Johnny Mantier was at Washington State. Then he opted out. I knew McLeod coming in was going to chuck it all over the field, and he sure did, throwing 5 touchdown passes and throwing for 453. I said, hope our community will embrace the Holiday Bowl, because these are really special people that donate a lot of time to make this bowl an event, and they just continue to match teams that throw it down the field.
Well, it's always a marquee bowl. Like in the back in the day, it was the big bowl that wasn't on New Year's Day. But now it's the best bowl that's not part of the playoffs, right? I mean, we had this great run. And by the way, McCord, he played at Ohio State.
That's right, 3 years.
So why did he transfer? I mean, did they thought Howard was going to be a better quarterback, and he's kind of just sort of satisfactory, right?
He's kind of a gunner. He'll throw a lot of passes. He'll throw for a lot of yards. He will throw a touchdown. He does throw interceptions. So he just decided to opt out. And boy, it was like they found a present under the Christmas tree in Syracuse last December in the transfer portal. That kid made Syracuse.
Yeah. And then who was the other NFL quarterback that went there? He played for the Eagles. McNabb. Didn't he go to Syracuse?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have history.
The bowl games. Oh, this New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Don't bother him. You can text me, email me. I might get back to you, but I might not, because these bowl games are just going to be spectacular this week. Okay, we go from all things football to what's left in the hot stove league.
Well, yeah, one of the big dominoes just dropped over the weekend. I mean, Corbin Burns in Arizona.
Yeah, let's just talk about who's there. Nice logo. Mr. Money, Monopoly Man. Free agent deals. Arizona Diamondbacks signed Corbin Burns. Legendary Milwaukee Brewer pitcher, had a really strong year. Baltimore. He wanted 7 years. He wanted $35 million per. Giants were right there at the end and backed away. Toronto was right there, backed away. They did not want to give him 7 years guaranteed at that kind of price. Arizona jumped into the fray. They gave him 6 years, $35 million per, but they gave him an opt-out after the second season. That's what flipped it, made him an Arizona Diamondback. Now suddenly Arizona's got more starting pitching than they can use, and there's probably going to be some trades somewhere along the way. Arizona gets Corbin Burns. I mean, his career statistics are really impressive. And he's got a chance for at least the next 2 years to team up with Zach Gallen and all these other starters. And suddenly the Diamondbacks look like a really strong power team in the National League West. We go from that. Let's talk Dodger baseball. Dodgers met for 3 hours. We believe the meeting was last Friday with Roki Sasaki. The entire entourage was there. I think they talked about parameters of a deal. They may have made the first offer, but there will be continued negotiations back and forth. We got 6 teams that have met with Sasaki so far. Little surprised it's not leaked out that the Padres have met with him yet, but the Padres have intimated they think they're a finalist for Sasaki, but he's met with 6. But the sales pitch from the Dodgers involved everybody in the Dodgers organization. San Francisco Giants. Where are they going next? How are they going to add to the roster they have? And this becomes a big issue. They signed Willy Adames. They have made an offer, a 1-year offer to Verlander. They made a 1-year offer to Scherzer. They were in the running for other guys who went other places. Guess who they're meeting with this week, or have met with him this week? Pete Alonso, first baseman. Now, the Mets still probably have the inside track on him, so keep an eye on that. Red Sox, they've had an unbelievable offseason in terms of pitching acquisitions. Boston is a finalist for Alex Bregman, who's the last marquee name on the free agent table. Boy, if Boston gets Bregman, on top of all the pitching acquisitions, the trade for Garrett Crochet of the White Sox, and the signing of Walker Buehler, with all the young guys that they force-fed last season, if they get Bregman, holy cow. So, John, wasn't quiet over the Christmas holiday.
The NL West is stacked, man.
Oh.
There's just so much competition. And then Corbin Burns coming to the Diamondbacks, that kind of caught us all by surprise. I mean, we were thinking it was going to be Toronto or San Francisco.
But Giants did not want to offer a pitcher 7 years. Toronto tried hard. Toronto's been in on everybody and hasn't been able to close on anybody. They've not been able to accomplish very much in the offseason. But when Arizona jumped in and said, we'll give you $35 million per year, and we'll give you freedom. You pitch for us for 2025 and 2026. You can opt out if you wish. Otherwise, the rest of the contract fits. That's how Arizona got him, by giving him the opt-out on top of the dollar value that he wanted, and then on top of the term, 6 years with free agency after the second year. So all things baseball. We're not done. Let's talk about the other baseball story.
Yeah, the Padres have been real quiet.
Oh, nice headline. Oh, for the offseason. Jeez. I'm sorry. Virtually all the marquee free agents outside of Sasaki are off the board. And the Padres have not done anything in terms of additions, which leads me to believe the stories out there about the reality that ownership has said, your payroll is $170 million. You got to pay $170 million. And if you got to move people out of here to do it, you still got to spend $170 million. And that's why Jay Preller has not been able to do anything. Well, that's not quite correct. But these are the off-season acquisitions of the San Diego Padres. You recognize all those names, right? What I think AJ Preller's done is he's got his boots on the ground. Scouts are everywhere. These are the guys that they've looked at that they're going to give opportunities to. Jose Espada is a pitcher, came out of the Cardinals organization. He was in Japan last season with Yakult Swallows, 2.89 ERA.
Hey.
And the Padres found Nick Martinez and Suarez and Luis Garcia. So Espada did well there. Maybe he comes back here. Juan Nunez, Rule 5 draft pick, Orioles farm system. He had a 2.45 ERA in AA, but the Orioles didn't protect him. But he throws hard, but he's all over the plate. Padres will try to refine him. Maybe they found a gem there. Ike Huizi, Detroit. This guy had a 4.68 ERA, pitched in Mexico. Throws the hell out of the ball, but he's wild as can be. So those are the three pitchers from outside that they brought in. Now, the Padres must be of the opinion that they have enough depth. You remember names like Tom Cosgrove, Alec Jacobs, Stephen Kolek, Sean Reynolds, Johnny Brito. Those guys maybe come into the mix, and with a year in the system, maybe they'll find consistency. Maybe one or two of those guys surface that are going to give them the depth they need. But those are the only three pitchers the Padres have added so far. Yes, they're in the running for Sasaki, but if they don't get Sasaki, there's nobody left out there to get. And of course, they have not re-signed Profar, and that thing seems to be stalled because of the agent and the price tag. I'm not giving Profar pay hike from $1.5 million to $15 million, which is what Scott Boras wants. He wants 3 years, $45 million. The Padres have signed Oscar Gonzalez, who? Outfielder, Cleveland Indians. Now has hit for power. Hit 269 this past season, part of the season Cleveland, part of the season Yankees. Hit 13 home runs at the major league level. They just signed Moises Gomez, Cardinals. He's a 9-year minor leaguer. but he's hit for average in the minors 127 home runs in the minor leagues. So Gomez comes in as a super utility guy. Well, they signed Jan Perlaza, second baseman, Chicago Cubs, 272 last season, hit 27 home runs in the minor leagues, super utility guy. And they signed a first baseman from the Giants, Trenton Brooks. He spent 8 years in the minor leagues. Unfortunately, in the major leagues, he hit 130 for San Francisco. But as a power hitter in the minors, he's done very well. Those are the guys that the Padres have added. That's a really mean headline that you posted, for the offseason, but that's the truth. But you have to trust them because they found guys that turned out to be really good acquisitions, whether it's the pitching rentals from Japan or whether it's the Solanos and the Peraltas, the guys off the bench last season. Am I disappointed? Yeah, that they're 0 for the season so far because I thought they would have done some things, and maybe there's still trades to come. And they've still not solved the dollar value of what they're going to do with Dylan Cease in terms of price and what they're doing with Michael King, and those guys have to be re-signed. And to your point that you made just 5 minutes ago, damn, the National League West looks tough.
Yeah.
Based on what the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks have just done.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable that A.J. Preller has his work cut out for him, but we never really thought the Padres were in on any of those big name guys like Corbin Burns or Juan Soto. So it was a matter of waiting for all these dominoes to fall. And then we start to get to the second and third tier of those free agents. But I'll bet you Preller's got at least 1 or 2 trades in him.
Yeah. Either that or Preller's boots on the ground buddies have found a pitcher in Japan, or Nunez under the tutelage of Ruben Niebla becomes really special because the guy does throw the hell out of the ball and have been in the Orioles farm system. And he has found guys in the minor leagues, and we'll see. Can Gonzalez be a major league hitter? Is Gomez, who's done it all in AAA, can he be the guy? So those are all things Padres at this point in time. We still got, it's not even January 1st yet. So there's still windows to make deals, but a lot of guys are going off the board.
Going off the board, yeah.
Okay, that's all things Major League Baseball. Last topic on the table. Oh, we're going to get some reaction to this. By the way, Fans Forum chat box is open. You have an opinion about what the Padres have done versus what the Padres have not done, feel free to jump on board. Last topic on the table. That's, by the way, our mascot who has just joined the fold. Who is that dog's name?
Sniffer.
Sniffer. Sniffer has seen a few fastballs in its career.
I think I'm going to escort him out during the live stream.
Yes. Sniffer.
I think he has to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Last topic on the table. Go ahead. Punch this one up because we went round and round and round about how to deal with this. Let's talk about topics on the table. There have been so many stories that we have talked about over the course of doing this podcast that we want you to think about some of the stories of the year. And we had a tough time check marking off a whole bunch of these different stories. I decided the 10th best story of the year was Colorado's record-setting Deion Sanders clone, Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner. What he accomplished at CU as an elite wide receiver, and then what he also accomplished as a defensive back, and the fact that he played 1,035 snaps this season. Travis Hunter, 10th best story in sports. 9th best story in sports, the death of Johnny Hockey and his brother. Talking about Johnny Gaudreau, former Calgary Flames star, who hit the Columbus Blue Jackets, 40-goal scorer. He and his brother killed by a drunk driver while they were cycling, doing off-season training. 9th story of the year. 8th story, all things Scotty Scheffler. I mean, he won everything on the PGA Tour, Player of the Year, the FedEx Championships, 9 victories, including Grand Slams. He's become quite a personality, Scotty Scheffler. 8th best story in sports. 7th, the passing of Fernando Tatis. The passing of Fernando Valenzuela and the passing of Ricky Henderson. 2 guys who left us way too early. But boy, what an imprint on sports that Fernando Valenzuela, Ricky Henderson made. 6th story, there is no more Pac-12. The death of the Pac-12 conference, huge story. Nobody's forgiven SC and UCLA what happened. 5th story, all things Andy Reid, Kansas City Chiefs, 2 Super Bowl wins, trying to make it 3 in a row. That's pretty impressive. 4th biggest story in sports, the decision to step aside. Bill Belichick leaves New England. Nick Saban, which to me is more of a shocker, leaving Alabama and, in essence, college football. Third biggest story, all things Dodger baseball. It could be World Series. It could be Dave Roberts becoming the all-time winningest manager in baseball history, 682 percentage.
Wow.
It could be Ohtani's contract. It could be Ohtani on the field. All things Dodger baseball. Second biggest story, the passing of the hit king, Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose. And I really felt the top story, because they're still talking about it, the arrival of Caitlin Clark and what she meant to Iowa basketball, women's basketball, the emergence of the WNBA star, the impact on WNBA, the reaction from the players, the TV ratings, the attendance figures. Caitlin Clark, #1 story in the world of sports. John, I know you spilled a cup of coffee over some of these, but go ahead, agree or disagree. Anybody we missed?
Well, Caitlin Clark at the top of the list is a surprise, and I would definitely have her in the top 3. But now I look at your list, I'm thinking, well, who would be above them? I'm not sure. Maybe the Dodgers Ohtani story. I think you have Pete Rose too high. I mean, it's a big story, but to me, the passing of Fernando and Ricky Henderson was a more impactful thing for me than the passing of Pete Rose. And I think the Chiefs and the ability to go here for a three-peat is unbelievable. So great stories here. It's fun to see Johnny Hockey and Scotty Scheffler on that list as well.
I really struggle because the more I thought about it, the more I researched, there's so many other stories out there that maybe I should have paid attention to. You know, I really thought about Simone Biles, including her in the top 10, because she came back from enormous mental health issues, left global competition as a gymnast, and then turned back and came back and got an Olympic gold in gymnastics. I was going to include her. I thought about O.J. Simpson, but he was such a bad citizen. There's such negative vibes about him. I tend to think maybe people were glad to be rid of all things the juice, so I didn't include him in the top 10 either. But you agree, you disagree, feel free to jump in on the fans forum chat box right now. Give us your thoughts on top sports story of the world, top sports person of the world.
All right. Well, people are reacting to Sniffer right here in the live chat.
We're the only podcast in America that has a mascot.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Sniffer is 10 years old, and Sniffer has just moved in to John's castle, and Sniffer wants to be on the podcast.
Yeah, he's a rescue dog, and he needed some love. And so here he is, so it's all good.
He's getting love.
Yeah.
Hey, this podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Got projects for 2025. They're going to help us paint the walls and finish out our new production studios. DIXIELINE Lumber to serve you. John, time for Fans Forum. We got people with opinions. Are you ready to get some reaction?
Yes, we are. And okay, just a quick shout out from Sand Cactus Man. Favorite voice of sports out there.
Talking about you.
No, he's talking about you. Man.
Damn right.
Yeah.
I am bleeping brilliant. No, it's fun. I got some really cool email Christmas cards from followers. We were off last Friday because we had some technical issues in John's new studio. But that being said, it's so nice to have you people. We now have gone over the 7,000 subscriber level, which is pretty impressive just on YouTube. That doesn't include everything else. John did a research piece last week. We've had 2.3 million people sample all the things that we've done on all the different social media platforms. Agree or disagree, doesn't matter. People are sampling that, so we salute you as we go to the new year. Thank you for all the kind comments, and glad you're with us on Mondays and Thursdays. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to C. Moreno. And he was saying Brooks and Green should have been at the top of the list. And that was during the NBA segment.
Brooks and Green.
That's
what I'm talking about. Draymond. Well, he's talking about Draymond Green.
He must be.
He's talking about Brooks, the troublemaker in Memphis and Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But they might have been isolated situations. I'm talking about bigger people who impacted the world of sports. And I think, to me, Caitlin Clark was front and center, all conversations, and her impact on women's college basketball, and then obviously transitioning to the WNBA, and the reaction everybody had to her arrival, good or bad, like or dislike.
No, I just think he thought that it should have been on the big list with Joel Embiid and all the other tantrums.
Oh, okay.
That list.
Yeah. All right. You're talking about the NBA people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. These characters that were at top of this list, the NBA's got a real problem Our perception, your perception of the league has changed in terms of quality of play. Obviously, the erosion of the TV ratings, and now the junk that's happening on the court. I mean, there's a terrible fight in the Miami-Houston game the other night.
Yeah.
5 people got ejected, and these guys throwing punches, guys getting thrown to the floor, coaches coming off the bench where they're not supposed to come off the bench. Really, really ugly. League's got a discipline issue here. They got to do some interventions, I think.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, the NBA is not as interesting to watch as it used to be. But did you see that shot that Steph Curry hit at the end of the first half? I mean, what a shot. What an acrobatic move. We need more of that in the NBA, more excitement rather than just dudes like lazy shooting threes and no defense.
Or screaming and making obscene gestures to the fans or abusing officials. The league is, they've got to reel the control of these players in. Okay, next question.
Okay, let's move down the list. We'll go to Callan. He goes, hey, Saw and John, hope you both had a tremendous holiday. I'm shocked about Mike Brown getting canned in Sacktown. Saw, it's more of an indication of player power or quick eject button from the GM?
Well, if you listen to Mike Malone in Denver, he was really critical of Sacramento owners, saying, this is inferring this is a player problem. It's got to be solved within that locker room. It's got to be solved with the coach having the authority to fix what's not right. You just don't hit the eject button. And what does it say about ownership? They just gave Mike Brown a big extension based on the success he had, and hit the eject button. You owe him $25 million. What does it say about the ownership of the Sacramento franchise and the general manager? So, but he's failed now, 3 times as a head coach. He's gotten bounced. He may run out of jobs. He just may be a superior assistant coach. Maybe he winds up back at Golden State with Kerr.
Well, don't those 2 brothers own the Sacramento Kings? And I remember they also own the Palms Hotel in Vegas.
Now that's back in the day. No, that franchise has been sold a couple times.
Oh, okay. But you think about it, the Kings are like for the longest time, similar to the Detroit Lions of the NFL until recently. Mm-hmm. They had always been the dregs of the league, the NBA. I mean, you have to go back. There had a little bit of a run there, against back in the 90s.
Chris Webber era.
The Chris Webber era, yeah. And then later on, I know there was a rivalry there with the Lakers. And after that, you have to go back to Tiny Archibald in the Kansas City Omaha Kings. I mean, what a rough go for that.
Prior to that, Oscar Robertson, Cincinnati Royals.
Yeah. So, but earlier in the podcast, I think it was great. You said that Brown got sacked in Sacktown, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
To me, it's an ownership problem more than it is anything else. You hire the coach has to solve the problems with players. It's easier to fire the coach than fire the whole roster. They got some chemistry problems there, but they got bigger problems up top, ownership problems. Next one.
Okay, let's keep it on basketball. This is from Chris. Finney Smith is a great addition to the Lakers, guys. Solid defender who can make open threes, but more importantly, it gets Russell out of here and allows Bronny James to become their legitimate 3rd superstar. Rob Pelinka continues to play 4D chess with the rest of the league. Happy bleeping New Year.
Well, Finney Smith is a proven commodity. I don't know whether he'll be a starting guard or not. They're a little bit weak now at the point guard, so they got a tough decision to make there. But the guy is proven. The guy can hit threes, and that guy sticks his nose in it out on the edge to play defense, and that helps. It does not solve the lack of paint rim protection in the middle. But the thing is that, the Lakers continue to churn the roster, try to find the right chemistry, but they've retained all their number 1 picks. They still have those first-round draft picks, so maybe there's another deal coming. But Anthony Davis, and LeBron and Austin Reeves, that's pretty good. And now Finney Smith, who's a proven commodity, more consistent proven than, say, last year's acquisition of Rui Hachimura. So maybe they're going to find the right chemistry here. But they still have the number 1 picks. They could still make a trade to go get one of those shot blockers or guys that clog up the paint.
I just think that it's addition by subtraction. You get rid of D'Angelo Russell. I think that's going to settle things down. They don't really need like a traditional point guard since, all the guys seem to bring the ball up and start the offense.
And they can run it through LeBron if they wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Hey, happy holidays to you, Chris. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to John. He goes, incompetence. That was the Jets game against Buffalo. Who would have thought Tyrod Taylor would outplay Aaron Rodgers?
There's a story out there. They're down 40-0, and Aaron Rodgers went to Jeff Ulrich, the head coach, and said, maybe you should let the other guy play. We're not accomplishing anything. The protection's terrible. The running game has been very inconsistent, even though they have Devontae Adams and the other wide receiver. They just haven't been very consistent. It's weird. Aaron Rodgers' statistics are not abysmal. He's not throwing a ton of interceptions. His quarterback rating is like 91, which is pretty decent. But boy, you never know what you're getting Sunday to Sunday there. So I guess the burning question, once we get through next weekend, does he want to play, or the Jets going to bring him back? Is he going to take a pay cut to come back and play with the Jets? I'd hate to see him go off in the sunset with this as his final farewell season. I just have this ache that Rodgers is ending up like Brett Favre ended up, playing for the Jets, playing miserably, and just a disaster. I still think he's got game left in him, but he's dinged up, and I don't think he's got a very consistent, good team around him. But yeah, John, you're correct. That was bloody incompetent. It was 40-0, and it was like the Jet players just gave up.
Yeah, it was brutal. And, and then he was chirping at his players for, I guess maybe took the wrong route on that one run. I don't know if you saw that highlight. And he was kind of barking at them, and like nobody is better or knows what's going on more than Aaron Rodgers, right? But, I'll tell you what, the Jets, they're like the Sacramento Kings of the NBA. They just always seem to choke, but at least they make things interesting. And the Kings, there's nothing interesting going on there.
A lot of bad football in the big borough right now, in the Big Apple. You got the Jets, you got the Giants. Oh, boy, they both ugly. John, happy holiday. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to 4RXLA. He goes, pro sports players make so much money, they don't care about fines or what the coaches say.
I think you're correct in that assessment. I mean, these guys are making so much money in the NBA. They'll look at Adam Silver and say, screw you. Take my money. I'm making $50 million a year. It doesn't matter. What are you going to do? I think the union has to get involved with player deportment. The league needs to do an intervention with these guys who I think have got mental health issues. And I think EMBIID and Anthony Edwards have really become problem people for the image of the NBA.
Yeah, they got to clean it up. They got to fix that sort of thing. And it's I don't know. It just seems like these guys should have the character to not want to make an ass of themselves in public in the first place.
They're making so much money, they don't care what you and I think. They don't care how it looks on TV. That drives me crazy.
But they should have self-esteem and pride in themselves for being a good quality individual with good character.
They're making $50 million a year. They don't care.
Yeah, well, clearly they don't.
Okay. Happy holiday, XLA.
Okay, let's go here to Gary. And he goes, no one wants to play the Rams in the playoffs.
Rams are really playing with their hair on fire. And the return of the two receivers, now the return of Tyler Higbee with the emergence and growth of Kyron Williams and Matthew Stafford's leadership, that's pretty good. But when you get to postseason, you're not playing the New Orleans Saints in postseason. So this young, very, very young defense will have their hands full when they start playing real people in postseason. The Chargers will too, even though they got Justin Herbert. But what a job to go from 1-4 to 9-2. What a job by Sean McVay. Very impressive.
It's funny is on Instagram, on your channel on Instagram, the fans love to say, well, this video didn't age very well. and one of them is usually the one where you said that the Rams season was over in late September. And now look where they are. I mean,
everybody said that. They had 6 offensive linemen on injured reserve, and they were playing all kids on defense because Aaron Donald retired, and they traded their inside linebacker. And look what they evolved into. Tell you what, that personnel director, Les Snead, that general manager, a lot of people don't know who he is. Boy, you look at what they've given McVay to work with and how good this roster is, and they're playing all kids on the defensive side of the football.
Was it Les Snead with the one with that T-shirt about the effing draft picks?
Yeah, that was when they were trading all the draft picks. And they got a Super Bowl ring. See a Super Bowl ring?
Yeah.
So, but now he's kept the draft picks and he's turned them into a pretty good young defense. Gary, thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's go here to the O-Siders. The Rams purchased the sports arena, but to build off what you're saying, do you think they will build a Rams facility coupled with a new arena to capitalize on San Diego's love for the NFL?
Well, no, the Rams have built a brand new facility up in Los Angeles. That's not going to happen. But they're going to build, and this thing has been tied up in coding and all types of governmental issues. They will build a new entertainment district near Sports Arena Boulevard. Now, it's not going to happen in 15 minutes. It might not happen in the next 2 years. But there will be a new sports arena here, which will be great because that means the San Diego Gulls of the AHL will have a flashy new arena to play in. Don't think it's going to lead to us getting an NBA expansion team, nor is it going to probably lead to us, getting an NHL team. But, maybe it leads to us getting a WNBA team. Keep that in mind. We're already obviously got MLS soccer. We got women's pro soccer with the San Diego Wave. So I think there'll be some other things coming as tenants in that building. And of course, there's the new small building is open up in Oceanside, which the San Diego Sockers were really the ones that drove that deal to get it done. That's that new arena up in Oceanside for the Sockers and the G League team. That's kind of cool.
It is cool. Yeah, we got to make a trek out there. I know that I've seen a lot of other people making the move up there to Oceanside to see the ball games, but the sports arena is a dump. I remember the story is, I guess, the 1975 Final Four was there,
yes.
And John Wooden said, "We're never going to play basketball here ever again." And that was, oh my God, that was like, what, 45 years ago, 50 years ago. So I'm going to be so happy when they finally redo that. But it's governmental things. They're still arguing about height limits on buildings, and just a lot of people that don't want to see anything change in their community.
It'll get done. It just takes time. That's what we call progress. Sometimes a little bit slower than the norm in San Diego. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Mike V. And he goes, "Great job, Hacksaw. Big fan for many years." Oh, by the way, Mike is the Aztec correspondent I told you about the last episode. He has got a good dude in John. I'm getting him to join Aztec Nation slowly, but it will happen. He'll be wearing Aztec colors soon.
No doubt about it. San Diego State's football program needs to find its way. Community needs to put its arms around the Aztecs. For Sean Lewis to have support has not happened yet. What Dutcher's done is phenomenal. What Dutcher's done, for the most part, to keep his players there is phenomenal. What the players have done as good citizens. A lot of people don't know this. San Diego State's basketball players gave up a chunk of their NIL money, donated it to feed the hungry at Hoover High School. Nice. I was told the players donated almost $50,000 of their NIL money for this fund at Hoover High School to feed the hungry. I mean, those are the kind of kids that Dutcher attracts. And for the most part, they've kept their kids from leaving and go somewhere else too, because how they sell the sport.
Yeah, and it's a lot different than the behavior we see from Joel Embiid and the other guys in the NBA,
yeah,
right?
Very much so.
So, but Mike's a great guy, and he's a big-time Aztec football guy. Season tickets going back to the 80s, and he shares a lot of content with me, and he knows a lot of what's going on with Aztec football. I'm more of an Aztec basketball guy, but it's great to have a big-time D1 program here in San Diego. But now we kind of have three, if you count USD and my alma mater, UCSD. But go Aztecs, loving it all.
Sean Lewis, he's lost so many players in the portal over 2 years. Now he's got 18 guys who've transferred in. But this spring football for the Aztecs is going to be like last spring football. Lots of new players, new playbook. We're kind of repeating what we went through last year with optimism and hope that turned out to be 3-9. So he's still got a lot of work to get done. He needs a little stroke of good luck. I wish he could hold on to his players. It has not happened yet. Mike, thanks for joining us. Go ahead, next one.
Okay, next one. We're going to go here. Just another one from Gary. He goes, "As a Dodger fan, I'm confused as to why the Padre payroll max is $170 million when the luxury tax threshold is $237 million.
Well, remember, the Padre payroll is at 170, but there's also financial pension benefits that count on every contract. So it's 170 payroll, but there's $1 million plus for every guy that's under a major league contract, which pushes them into maybe the 210, 215 total. And again, if you get up to 237 or 241, then you go over the threshold. So it sounds like, oh, they're way under at 170. But when you add the benefits that every club has to pay for all the guys on their roster, the pension and all that, and healthcare, that's what boosted up. So they're not done. There's still players out there. There's still work to be done. I am a little bit surprised that they've not come to a dollar figure as to what they want to pay Cease, what they want to pay Michael King. But there's so many guys off the boards. So it probably doesn't have a lot to trade in the farm system. So I'll be intrigued to see what he does, because we're 2 months out from the start of spring training. But he does have people everywhere, and he always finds players. He's got work to be done.
Well, I think, all due respect to Peter Seidler and the great things he did in this community, that was a one-off. That was like a fantasy time frame there when all the money was being spent. Now we're kind of getting back to normalcy, which is still, even at 170, if you use that as the number, I think is in the top half, if not the top 10. So I think the team is still going to be competitive. They're never going to compete, dollar to dollar with the Dodgers.
The problem you have is that they gave such long contracts, such big dollar values to everybody. Those contracts are not tradable. And if you wanted to use somebody as a trade chip to go get other stuff, nobody wants to take on some of those contracts. That kind of works against them. But I think as we sit here on New Year's Eve, I firmly believe they keep Cease. Maybe they go to arbitration and see what the figure is, pay them. If they're in the pennant race next year, they keep them. They let them walk. If they're not in the pennant race, if bad things happen, they can always shop them and trade them. They'll keep Michael King. So, I mean, their rotation will be rock solid. It'll be a little bit wafer thin unless there's a trade coming. But we don't, at this point in time, we don't know. We've got plenty of time to talk about that going forward. Couple more here. And let's go here to Gregory. He says, Lee, you missed the resurgence of the Winnipeg Jets. Oh, Canada Network, tell you what, they're playing really well right now. Got to stay healthy. Hellebuck is a hell of a goaltender. Doesn't got a lot of national NHL recognition, especially here in the States, because Winnipeg's such a small market. The crowds have come back. It's great. A year ago this time, there's a lot of concern. Is Winnipeg too small a market to support the Jets and the payroll and all that? Right now, those fans are supporting this team. And, as long as you keep Sheffley and Kyle Connor healthy and Hellebuck in goal, we'll see. We still got half that NHL season to play. Then the real season starts. But Winnipeg looks like the real deal to me.
It's just kind of odd that the Winnipeg chose the Jets as their mascot or team name. Is there a connection there with Winnipeg?
That goes back to the beginning of the World Hockey Association and Bobby Hull. I don't know why the owner, his name was Ben Hatskin. I met him and I interviewed him a couple of times when I was in the World Hockey Association. I don't know where they came up with the nickname Jets, because Jets was not the nickname of the junior hockey team, which was kind of a cornerstone of that community for so long. So maybe somebody from the old Canada Network can give us an update as to why it was, quote, the Winnipeg Jets. But, the original Jets franchise came out of WHA, went to the NHL, wound up going to Arizona, became the Coyotes. And then the Atlanta franchise, which fell upon hard times, they wound up going to Winnipeg, and they were renamed in the memory of Hull, Hedberg, Nilsson, and the old great WHA Winnipeg Jets.
See, that it's good that they kind of went back to their old name, kind of like Cleveland with the Browns.
Didn't do it with the Indians, though, did they?
No, they didn't.
No, don't get me started. Okay, let's do social media here. We got a couple of social media comments.
Okay, let's get a few of our friends here involved. And where's our list here? There it is. And let's talk here a little bit about Dodger baseball. This is from Javier, and he says, Mark Pryor's career was cut short. Now his pitchers are dropping like flies. Is he teaching them the same technique that derailed his career?
No, because, he had shoulder problems. He pitched a lot of innings, and his shoulder gave out, and it was the end of his career. This is a different neighborhood that these guys are throwing in. The wide array of pitches they're throwing is putting a different type of stress on elbows and forearms and shoulders. So this is not Mark Pryor's X's and O's, but this is a different set of circumstances. The baseball, everybody in baseball is trying to deal with. He's got a pretty good reputation, even though the Dodgers have been beset by enormous pitching problems and surgeries at AAA and with the major league pitchers. But this is not a Mark Pryor problem. This is a baseball generational problem with what these guys are throwing, how hard they're throwing. Everybody's seeking triple digits velocity and the wide variety of pitches, including the sweeper, which is causing a lot of damage to elbows. So baseball just did a study a week ago on the damage to pitchers. They don't have a solution, but they're saying this is why all this has occurred. So that's a long answer. It's not a Mark Pryor thing.
Well, but the Dodgers are the poster child for this big
surgeries.
For all of this. Do you think this could spook Roki Sasaki and maybe say, well, I don't know about, the developmental system with the Dodgers. They're getting their players hurt.
I think somebody will use it against him if they want to use it against him. But again, when Ohtani's talking to you and the Dodgers' history and legacy of Pacific Rim players and the Dodgers' track record of developing so many really good young pitchers, that's pretty impressive stuff. The sales pitch that all these clubs are making come from a lot of different angles, but the Dodgers have an awful lot to offer. By the way, did you see my World Series ring? That's the biggest sales pitch for the Dodgers. And here's Ohtani, who's going to make this phone call. And Dodgers history with all the pitchers they got from the Pacific Rim carries a lot of clout. Next one.
Okay, let's talk Aztec football. This is from Brad, and he says, Denegal has a rifle arm and can run. Emmanuel is a powerful running QB who can throw. I don't know who will start, but Denegal has the best arm of any Aztec quarterback since Ryan Lindley.
6'5". The guy can throw it, but the guy never was good enough to get a chance to play. They went through 3 quarterbacks last year at Michigan. Nobody was any good. He never got a chance to get on the field. So, is he a student of the game? Is he limited? His decision-making? That's what spring football is going to be all about. I do like Emmanuel. His dad played in the NFL. I think this kid's a good quarterback, but he's more of a run quarterback than he is a throw quarterback. And what does that coach, Sean Lewis, want to do? All over the field. So, but he's got 2 to choose from. That's what spring football is going to be all about. But the negative is now you're teaching all new people, including a lot of offensive linemen, who have never been in this program, in this playbook before. Now you got to teach them all this again, 200 pages worth of X's and O's, like they did last spring. If there was some continuity, I'm sorry, I like Danny O'Neill. I wish the kid had stayed. I think the kid betrayed the head coach. If the kid had stayed, then you'd be so far ahead of the curve because Danny O'Neill learned and did very well. It's nice to get red and black Aztec questions, so that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. So, we need more Aztec content here for sure.
Okay. Hey, listen. We have to run. I will say this. We thank you for what you've done for us over the last, we're about 18 months in. We've got 7,000 subscribers. I want you to email and message all your friends. Tell them what we do on Mondays and Thursdays on the podcast, on the YouTube channel, and all the other social media platforms. We appreciate you being part of this. We'll be back here on Thursday talking about what just happened New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. We're talking about the final weekend of the NFL season, and we'll probably have some more player deals, Hot Stove League and baseball. Podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. John, this has been fabulous. Thanks for introducing me. Well, most people say thanks for introducing me in this podcast, but I wish you a happy new year, and we'll look forward to you getting the rest of the studio built and getting this thing back on. We'll see you come Thursday.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Thanks for joining us, as always, on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.